Hello Exiles, and welcome to our newest build guide. VOIDFORGE is a very iconic sword obtainable only by defeating the Uber Elder in the Shaper's realm. Its most distinguished modifier causes 700% of your physical damage to be added as extra cold, fire, or lightning damage, but in return you cannot deal non-elemental damage at all. It has pretty low base damage, so it works best when you add other sources of physical damage to your attacks. It is a very versatile sword that can be used with many various skills. In this build, we decided to use the Bladestorm. It's a strong wide area attack that creates up to 3 lesser Bladestorms on the ground for a short duration, and they change their behavior depending on the stance you are in. Introduction of the Eternal Damnation Amulet opened up a new way of building a defensive layer against elemental damage. Thanks to this amulet you will gain additional elemental damage reduction based on your chaos resistances. However, it comes with a downside of lowering your maximum resistances by 5%. As a countermeasure to that, you can use the Lorewave armor, which sets your maximum resistances at a fixed value that cannot be lowered. It also has some very useful modifiers such as added physical damage or elemental damage bonus, which works very well with the VOIDFORGE sword. To change your stances you have to use the Blood and Sand aura, which also grants you a bonus area of effect or area damage relevant to the stance. Thanks to the randomized VOIDFORGE nature, you will have no problems keeping up your Trinity buff and applying exposures via elemental equilibrium. It is a very tanky build thanks to the high armor rating, almost permanent fortify, Slayer's damage reduction and beforementioned Eternal Damnation combo. Slayer's ability to constantly leech is also a very powerful tool to keep you alive. It's a very fast map farmer, you will have lots of movement speed and area of effect coverage. Single target damage is also excellent, although you will have to remember about switching stances and turning on your buffs like Berserk or Ancestral Warchief for maximum effect. There is no replacement for the VOIDFORGE, you need to have that sword before you start this build. Everything else is quite cheap to get and has a lot of room for improvement as you farm more currency. Except for your weapon, there are a lot of variants you could choose to build this character, and they all come with their own benefits and drawbacks or opportunity costs. Having lots of unique items makes capping your resistances and spell suppression chance harder, but it's often a fair trade-off. The VOIDFORGE is a core item for this build. It provides a lot of elemental damage and works extremely well with other sources of flat physical damage. Having some physical to elemental conversions is nice to have, but it is usually quite hard to come by, so it's not always worth it. The damage that Abyssus helmet can provide is unmatched by any other helmet, but it also makes you more susceptible to physical damage. It also makes getting enough resistances or spell suppression harder. Getting an enchant for more Bladestorms improves your damage quite substantially, but any aura reservation enchant is also useful. Chaos Spirit can get you a bit of maximum life and resistances, but most importantly, convert your life regeneration into massive amounts of rage, which can be used for Berserk skill. You can also get elemental weakness on hit corruption fairly easily. Eternal Damnation can provide a massive amount of elemental damage reduction, and thanks to the Lorewave armor you can ignore the resistance penalty. Picking this option will make capping your spell suppression almost impossible, but it's a worthy trade-off in our opinion. The Lorewave is a very good armor for this build as it grants a little bit of everything you need: flat physical damage, critical strikes, maximum life, and elemental damage. But the main reason to use this armor is to counter the penalty from the previously mentioned amulet. Thanks to the interrogation jewel you won't be able to inflict usual elemental ailments, but instead you will inflict much more valuable scorch, brittle, and sapped effects. The brittle is especially important as it greatly improves your critical strike chance. A Watcher's Eye with proper modifiers is always a good addition to any build that uses auras. Precision modifiers are particularly good here, as they can substantially improve your Flasks sustain or simply boost your damage. Circle of Guilt is a bit risky choice as it grants a lot of damage or utility with relevant synthesis implicit, but provides little to no defense value at all. You can use the Noxious Catalysts to get better effective damage modifiers. The combination of Forbidden Flame and Flesh Jewels provides a few interesting choices. The Overwhelm has great value if you lack critical strike chance or don't want to depend on Flasks and Brittle effect, while First to Strike, Last to Fall can grant you the Adrenaline buff and occasional life recovery. Most of those uniques bring forth specific requirements on your rare gear, such as getting a high amount of Chaos Resistance for Eternal Damnation, or Life Regeneration for Chaos Spirit. You can also opt for using only rare items, again, except for your sword, and the build will work just fine. You can obtain a lot of maximum life and resistances if you decide to use a rare helmet. You can also get plenty of mana reservation efficiency, spell suppression chance, or accuracy rating here too. Your boots can provide you with lots of resistances and life regeneration, as well as some movement speed, spell suppression chance, or life regeneration. Bonus action speed and life regeneration rate obtainable from Eldritch influences are also very useful and quite easy to obtain. If you prefer more stable, but overall lower damage, you can use a pair of rare gloves. Here you should look for modifiers such as maximum life, resistances, spell suppression, attack speed, or even chance to intimidate your enemies. You should pick Stygian Vice for your belt base, as it's always better than other belts implicits. Try to get as much life and resistances here, while also getting some life regeneration or elemental damage if possible. To make the best use of your belt's implicit, aim to get solid maximum life and resistances on your rare Abyss Jewel. If you can, try to get some added flat physical damage or critical strike multiplier alongside them. You can get plenty of offensive modifiers on your rare amulet. It is best to craft them with the Essence of Contempt to get a very high added flat physical damage bonus, while also looking for high maximum life, critical strike multiplier, resistances, or accuracy rating. Your rare rings are very similar to the rare amulet. Opal, steel, and amethyst are all great bases depending on your current needs. Crafting a reduction of mana cost for your skills is also a great idea. You could also get the Elemental Weakness Curse application here. Your rare jewels are quite important as they can give you a little bit of mana reservation efficiency, just enough to fit in another aura. They should also have some life, resistances, or critical strike multiplier bonuses. On your large cluster jewel you can get the Feed the Fury notable, which is a very good damage bonus, as you will always have Leech active thanks to Slayer Ascendancy. The other two notables provide slightly less damage but improve your accuracy, which frees up important affixes elsewhere. Bottled Faith grants a lot of damage and critical strike chance, but also a bit of life regeneration which can be converted to rage thanks to the Chaos Spirit gloves. If you don't have access to this flask, simply use the Diamond Flask instead. The other suggested flasks for this build are Life Flask with Bleeding Removal, Quicksilver Flask with Attack Speed bonus, Silver Flask with Critical Strike Chance bonus, and Granite Flask with increased armor rating. Bladestorm performs a wide area attack and creates damaging bladestorms for a short duration. The behavior of the storms depends on your stance. The divergent quality version of elemental damage with attack support gem allows you to leech elemental damage as mana, which is very convenient as there are not many ways to get that stat outside cluster jewel or extensive patching on the passive tree. Determination is a very important defensive aura that improves your physical hit damage mitigation by adding a lot of armor rating. It is especially valuable when you use the Abyssus helmet. Blood and Sand allow you to change your stances, as well as grants a lot of damage or area for your attacks depending on the stance you are in. Herald of Purity improves your physical damage, which then gets added as a random element by your sword. It also summons Sentinels of Purity, which can be quite helpful to occupy nearby enemies. Precision Aura grants a lot of accuracy rating as well as some critical strike chance. Try to keep it at the lowest gem level possible while also keeping the 100% chance to hit. Summon Skitterbots allows you to inflict chill and shock even with the Interrogation Jewel. You will need some rare jewels with mana reservation efficiency and enlightened support to use that aura. All those auras should be linked with high-level enlightened support. If that's not possible, drop out Skitterbots as they provide relatively low value compared to the mana it reserves. Assassin's Mark improves your critical strike chance and damage against marked enemies. It also allows you to generate power charges. Mark on hit support will allow you to apply Assassin's Mark with any attack you perform on rare and unique enemies. It will drain your mana really fast, so it's best to use the life tap support with it too. Leap Slam is your main movement skill. It causes you to jump to the targeted location, always stunning foes with full life. It scales very well with your attack speed. For that reason, faster attack support makes this setup much more smooth to play. Life Tap is also useful here, unless you can negate the cost completely with your jewelry. Elemental Weakness lowers all elemental resistances of cursed enemies. Ideally, it should be applied via your gear as you have plenty of skills to use anyway. Ancestral Warchief summons a totem that attacks nearby enemies and greatly improves your damage while you are nearby. Vol version boost that damage even more. Berserk spends your rage at an accelerating rate to massively boost your damage, attack speed, and durability. Without Chaos Spirit Gloves, regaining rage takes too much time to make it worth it. Enduring Cry grants a very high burst of life regeneration that can be converted to rage to fuel your berserk thanks to the Chaos Spirit Gloves. It is also useful as a recovery in dangerous situations if you don't use those gloves. Molten Shell is a very useful guard skill that creates a fiery shell around your character that absorbs a big portion of incoming damage for a few seconds. It also raises your armor rating during its duration. Blood Rage grants a lot of attack speed but degenerates your life. Anomalous quality would allow you to save one passive skill point from Sword Mastery. Kill all bandit lords in Act 2 to get rewarded with 2 bonus passive skill points by Aramir. As for your major Pantheon god power, we recommend getting the Soul of the Bring King, which will make you immune to stun locks and freeze. Soul of Ralakesh as your minor Pantheon power is really helpful to lower the damage you take from bleeds. It is especially important if you are using the Abyssus Helmet, which increases the physical damage you take. Leveling with this build is a breeze thanks to access to many useful notables right from the start. You will pick up many generic attack and critical strike bonuses, so you can use any weapon and skill until you can wield your final version of this setup. The elemental equilibrium is very good with the VOIDFORGE as you will randomly hit with fire, cold, or lightning damage, applying exposure to the other 2 elements. It is possible to hit twice in a row with the same element, but the net result is rather positive. The Call to Arms keystone is very useful to make your Enduring Cry instant. It is the only warcry you use, so sharing cooldowns is not an issue. Thanks to the Whispers of Doom Anoint, you will gain access to the second curse. However, if you don't have a way to automatically apply that curse and don't feel like casting so many buffs and debuffs before you start attacking, you can pick the Titanic Impact's notable, which will have 100% uptime. Slayer is a very powerful and versatile ascendancy. It boosts your life recovery thanks to never-ending and improved life leech, which also lowers the damage you take. It also grants you a powerful cull effect which triggers as soon as the enemy reaches 20% of his maximum life. As you could notice, you can greatly adjust this build to your needs with the gear you choose. If you enjoyed this type of content, please leave a like, subscribe, or comment your thoughts. Stay safe, and see you at the next one.